Hey everybody, Dr. Scott Keller from Synergy Chiropractic coming at you today. We're going to do some goblet squat variations today. We're going to use the goblet squat as kind of a test and then also an exercise for some stability in our squat. So we all should know by now that the squat is a vital motion. We use it all the time in CrossFit. And so to do it properly and functionally is just absolutely important. So there are a plethora of ways that you can mess up a squat from the ankles all the way up to the shoulders. So we can't go into that much depth today, but kind of piecing a lot of things from the past together. Basically, we're going to work on the tripod of the foot with this one. We're going to work on some glute activation, and obviously you got to be pretty stable through your core. You have to be mobile in your ankle, so the dorsiflexion of the ankle, the posterior hip, in order to get back through the posterior hip. The anterior hip, hip flexor, quad, those areas, if we're in a position posturally where our hips and our pelvis is tucked into an anterior tilt like this, you're going to lose the ability to flex as much. So a compensation with that in a squat is to flex in the lumbar spine. So once again, kind of think about that as you're going through this. And then obviously also up into the spine itself, in the thoracic spine. If you're super hunched and you don't have extension, you're going to have a tendency to kind of go forward in your squat as well. So we're going to partner up today for this little test part of this, and then we'll kind of get into some exercise parts, okay? But I guess just why don't we focus as far as mobility this week on the posterior hip, pigeon stretches, you know, the figure 4 stretch, some of those kind of things. You can roll out your glute, whatever you want to do. And then the thoracic spine. Why don't we do some foam rolling in the thoracic spine and or the peanut extension exercises we've gone over in the past. I think those two areas are just common enough that we all could benefit from that, okay? So first things first, with squat form. I don't want to beat this to death at all, but a lot of you may not know proper angles, okay? So here's my lovely artwork. We got the feet, we got the angle of the lower leg, the tibia, there's my thigh, my big butt here, and then my spine going up to my head, okay? So if I would extend the line from my tibia all the way up here, okay, you see that the tibial line here and the spine are parallel to each other. What we see a lot in just movement in the squat is the legs might be fine, here's the thigh, here's the butt, but then the spine angle is what we call flattened. It's a flattened spine angle. So if I would draw a line extending up, those lines are going to intersect somewhere not far out in front of the body. So in real life, basically what I mean is a lot of us, because of lack of dorsiflexion, lack of hip mobility, or lack of spinal mobility, we end up squatting fine through here, and then we kind of catch ourselves leaning over and squatting with a really flattened spine angle. Or we end up on our toes too much. All of those common problems that we see in the squat. So once again, there's a million different things you could have wrong and that you could do. And the purpose of kind of doing a partner thing today is to just try to help each other pick some of those things out. Does it look like the ankles are stiff? Are the knees able to stay right over the toes? Can you get back through the hip without hyperflexing the back? All of those types of things, okay? One of the other more common things we see in the bottom of a squat, a lot of people will get down all the way to 90 or past 90 fine, and then at the bottom they get this butt wink or this hyperflexion in the low back. That causes a tremendous amount of compressive force and stress in the lumbar spine. So a lot of times that can be from the hips and the adductors, believe it or not. So that frog stretch could be a good one for you to do if you suffer from that problem. Okay, but let's get into what the goblet squat is actually going to test and what you're going to look for, okay? So goblet means holding the kettlebell by the handles in this position. Now we want to hold it really loosely today, okay? So don't hold it tightly against your chest. From the side here, if I'm holding it loosely, it's just going to be able to wobble, nice and relaxed in my arms, okay? It's going to rest on my chest, just on my sternum there, just very lightly, okay? So the purpose of this is going to be, if I start descending in my squat, and I start leaning forward, that kettlebell is going to come off of my chest. So that's first indication for you and yourself if you're flattening your spine angle too much. Okay? And your partner is going to be able to tell you and see that as well. So ideally what we're going to do, rest that kettlebell here, start hinging from my hips, so my butt's going to sit straight back. I'm going to sit down into my squat all the way down. And if you look at the angle between my tibia and my spine, they should be pretty much parallel to each other going that way. So I'm not, by no means am I perfect at this, but reasonably good. From the front, kettlebell's held here, and I'm going to descend slowly and keep and maintain that proper posture, okay? Another thing that I didn't mention earlier as far as stability, we need to have our core engaged and braced. So a lot of people in a squat will compensate for some of this stuff by hyperextending the lower back and flaring their ribs. So if you keep your core engaged and your ribs locked down and you can't get very far down into it, then obviously you got some things to work on. Some mobility issues and also some core stability, strength issues as well, okay? One other common thing that we see that you can kind of just add a little variation here as you are testing this with your partner is if you have a problem with your knees crashing in, okay, just add a band around the knee, okay, just like that. Push out a little bit. Try not to roll on the outside of your feet, but it's going to prevent you from collapsing in like this. So maintain that activation in the glutes with the knees out and go through the same movement we just talked about. If you don't have a band like that, the thicker bands will work. You'd probably use one of the smaller purple bands or something like that. Twist it like this and then just fold it and you have a nice, pretty strong loop there where you can put that around your knees and activate, okay? So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to partner up and watch each other do this. So 10 repetitions each and just try to kind of watch and gain an appreciation of how your partner moves and maybe what some of their deficiencies are, okay? And after that, we're going to do 10 repetitions in each arm of what I call a bottoms up kettlebell squat. So this is going to be a little bit more challenging. You may not need a very heavy kettlebell for this. So, I'm just going to use a 35-pound kettlebell, I believe is what this one is. And what you're going to do is bottoms up that kettlebell. So the bottom's facing up. We're going to stabilize this shoulder and this arm. Okay, so I don't want to see any upper trap activation here. So nice and relaxed, but stable there. This arm, I'm actually going to kind of use to balance myself, but I'm going to almost act like I'm pushing out against a wall here to kind of stabilize that side. Obviously, maintain the tripod of my foot, brace my core, stay stable here, and then I'm going to descend into my squat as low as I can go, and then back up, okay? 10 reps of that, you're going to be pretty tired, okay? And obviously, we can do the other side as well. Brace here, tripod of the foot, glutes activated, core stable and braced, and descend and up, okay? That kettlebell being in that bottoms up position really provides a lot of wobble there. So you got to really stabilize through the shoulder, but it also translates down into your core big time, all right? So to review, we're going to partner up, just give some testing with the goblet squat, holding it against your chest, kind of try to pick out some of your partner's faults and deficiencies, and then you're going to go into 10 reps on each side of a bottoms up kettlebell squat. If you guys have any questions with this stuff, it's complicated stuff, but we're trying to keep it simplistic. So if you have questions about your own form, technique, you want a movement analysis done by someone like me, let me know. Scott@synergylincoln.com is my email. Catch me in the gym. Give me a shout out. And good luck with this one this week. We'll see you next week.